Alright guys, morning. So what we're going to run through today is how to set up a top rope. Before we do that though, I'm just going to go through some kit and equipment and talk about like your hierarchy of anchors. So when I talk about that, do you understand what I mean or not? No? Alright, so you guys are prepping for your what kind of supervisor award, this is just a bit of training for you. So when I talk about a hierarchy of anchors, when we go outside, and you're obviously in a nice warm gym today, but when you go outside and you're starting to do stuff on the side of a mountain, crag, you look at basically whether you're going to use natural anchors, okay, gear placements, which is what we'll go have a look at in a minute, or we use stuff that's in situ. And that is the order of we look at it. So natural anchors will always be our first protocol, right? But with a natural anchor, what do you think we might want to check?
It's loose.
Nice, yeah, okay, yeah, totally, yeah. So we do a tap test, and as simple as that. So if it's a rock or a flake, so a rock that's dug into the ground, we'll hang off it, and you really kind of want to be aggressive with it. If it's a tree, we want to tap it to make sure it's not hollow and rotten. And as a general rule of thumb, if you put your hands together and try to put your biggest finger and thumb around the trunk of the tree, if you can reach both your tips and fingertip, then you don't probably want to use it. So you want to go probably something substantial or bigger than that. So that's natural anchors. Okay, gear placements is what we'll have a look at, and then you've got in situ. So, any ideas what you think I mean by in situ anchors? Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So what you'll find in some places that are frequented by climbers is you'll get some people that will put like metal stakes in. They've got like eye bolts and stuff like that, and it's actually bolted into the rock. So they use a special drill right through, and they actually put it in with epoxy, which are really good. But the difficulty there is you've got to know the history of it, or you've got to be experienced enough so you can look at it. Make sure you feel it for any sharp abrasive edges, because obviously that's going to damage your rope, which could be really kind of safety critical. So you've got to inspect it thoroughly. Now, if you judge that to be really safe, okay, and again that comes with a bit of experience, then that would essentially bump itself up in the order. So that would probably sit above using any gear placements. But if you didn't understand like maybe what you were looking at, or you didn't feel comfortable in using it, then you would use your gear. All right. So we'll go through that now. So I'll just show you some of the stuff. And it doesn't matter whether you know it or not. Okay, so do you know what these are? Any ideas? Alright. So these are called wires, or also called nuts. And they got their name basically because in the early 1900s, what the people used to do was get an actual nut off, a part of a machine, wrap cloth in it, twist it, and then stick it in the mountain side, and then make a loop on it, normally with rope or really kind of coarse twine, and then use that actually to clip into, which is super unsafe. So thankfully we've come on a lot since then. And these are all different shapes and sizes, so you'll see they're all numbered. So normally on a set, you'll either get a set of 1 to 9 or 1 to 11. And they can go in, this normally put them into the side of a crack, and they'll go in all sorts of different ways. So you can put them in vertically, horizontally, and the idea is, and the key thing is with these, is you have maximum surface contact. So you try to use the biggest areas, so either the two biggest flat sides, and that's kind of what you're looking at. That's those. And we have these as well. So these look exactly the same, but they are slightly different. So these are called offsets, right? So, and you'll see when you compare them to this one that they are, slightly offset. Okay, different angles within it, and the reason for that is, you can imagine like outside, kind of crack or little pocket that you might try and put a bit of equipment in, it's never perfect. It's never the same. And you just and when you get a good fix, you just automatically think, yeah, that's a really good hold. I trust that, and ultimately. And that's probably the biggest rule of thumb for when we go outside and do any of this is if you put something in and you question it, then it isn't good enough. But if you put it in and obviously then you know that, yeah, that's a really good placement, then that's fine. Right? But if there's any doubt, don't use it. Right? That's kind of like the golden rule. So those are offsets. So they're for different kind of it's a style of cracks or pockets that would fit into. These are a little bit more technical. You know what that is? No?
That ones I've seen in like a movie.
Right.
A documentary.
Yeah. So you'll probably seen in like stuff like Cliffhanger or like Vertical Limit. Alright, so this is a TAM, or also called a friend. It was invented by a couple of guys. So it got its nickname as a friend actually because when they tried it out and they designed it, they didn't want to let other people know what they were doing, so they called it friends. So and they would basically say when they were at a mountain at the bottom of a crag, oh, you've got your friends with you, and it was basically referring to these. So that's where it got its nickname. Right. So these work on a pulley mechanism, and essentially you pull this back up, and it goes into almost like an egg shape, and then you slot that into a pocket or a relatively large crack. These come into different shapes and sizes, and then you let it go slightly and it locks off. And all along here they've got these metal grooves, which you can just about see there. Right? And that is basically what grips against the rock, and it works on friction. Now it doesn't look like a lot, but they are really, really, really strong. What you have got to be careful with these is if you place them incorrectly, and again it just comes with a little bit of experience, is they can walk into they never come out, but they walk in to a crack. And to give you some idea, that's probably about £140, just that one. So if it walked into a crack, you have to get it back out, because to get it out, you've got to pull this mechanism down to pull it, and you just can't reach it. So when you tend to find, and you will see it when you go out and about, and you will see people, you will see these dotted around and stuck at the back of a crack, and it's because someone's put it in too far, got a really good placement, but they can't pull it back out. So yeah, expensive hobby if you start doing that. These ones here are called hexes. So they're a lot like what we talked about with wires on nuts and then with offsets. But the good thing with these is you can place them, because they're on this sling here, they have got a really good rotation of axis, and you can with a wire or a nut, you're limited to the direction of pull. So really you want it in directly in the line of when you're building your belay, which we'll go over in a minute. This one you can put it slightly offset to it, and because it's on a sling, it can basically move in lots of different directions, so it's really handy. And these are brilliant for sticking in behind cracks. And how you would basically place this, we put it behind something. If you had like a little slot, if you like, drop it right down and then pull it, and this whole block basically just pulls against the rock, and it won't go anywhere. And these are great. Like, they're a bit annoying to carry because they're like that, as you can hear. So, but really useful, particularly for the sort of setups you're doing. So it might not be something that you would take if you were in a lead climbing situation, just because they're a bit bulky, a bit maybe cumbersome, and like I said, they're jamming around a lot, and you might want to be having concentration. But from a setup point of view, they're really, really useful. So these ones I'll show you, but you don't necessarily need to know for them right now, but it's just for really experience. So these are quick draws. These are on a snap gate, alright, and these are designed like that. So some you'll see, so like this one, okay, so you see that one, that gate on there, that snap gate, and it's called snap gate because obviously it snaps back. And incidentally, if it never does that, then just get rid of it because it's broken. So you want a good solid mechanism on these. Now that one's solid, so that is the sort of thing that we probably use or like on the more like traditional climbing routes. This one, it's designed like that, like almost like a wire looking, because it's lighter. And so it'd be for like this really short, quite aggressive and quite challenging route to climb. So it's all about weight saving. And everything you find basically in climbing, as you get kind of into it, is all to do with weight saving. So you get different sizes, different lengths, and people also even make these up themselves and get rid of this tape here that's made out of sling and actually just put their own in. What's important to kind of note on this is there's one bit that's got a bit of rubber band inside it to stop it moving, and there's one side here that's got a bit of flexing. Right? So when if you're using these, what you would want is the side that's got the movement in to be into the actual the wire. So this is how it would work. Just to give you an example. So I was climbing up and I placed this, and then clip that into there, all right, on the side that moves, and then this bit hangs free. And as I'm climbing, that's what I clip my rope into. All right, all right. But that's not something you need to know for now, but it's just good information. Okay, then we've got these bits. So these are like some different carabiners. Right. So this one, there's a few different types here actually. This one you've probably seen before. Yeah, you seen that one? Probably used one of them. Right. So that one's called an ATC, air traffic controller. So it's really kind of basic, really straightforward. It's got two loops here. You can't use this. You can't really get it wrong with one. You can go either on the left or right side. It's really straightforward. Right. This one, okay, is slightly different. It's a guide plate. And what it allows you to do when you're doing more technical climbing, you can put it through a different part of the actual belay plate and lock something off. So it's something that you would use kind of maybe a bit more advanced. And then this is called a gree-gree. Any of you use one of these? Yeah. So you might have seen them been to climbing walls before. They're really used kind of frequently out in mainland Europe. So this basically opens up and you thread the rope through, and it works on this lever here. And that's the difference. Now it gives you like a dummy's guide now. So when they first invented these, or brought them out, should I say, they didn't have this dummy guide on the back. And what you were finding were people were threading them through wrong, and then pulling this lever at the back, and people were dropping to the floor. They still came down they didn't come down like a rocket. They did come down relatively under control, but they still landed with a foot. So now they've re-engineered it, and it's actually it won't let you put the rope through the wrong way, right, which is good. Okay, so that's a gree-gree. Last couple of bits. This one here is a nut key, really straightforward. So I talked about the Ys and hexes. This is basically to help extract them. So if you were climbing, someone was lead climbing, and you were seconding, so you were going up after them to pull the gear out. This is what you would use. And ideally, you really want someone that's not like really pulled on the gear hard, because it makes it really difficult to get out. And you'll either hook it and pull it out, or sometimes you've got to tap it kind of forward. So it's just a bit of an art. You get used to it when you've been doing it. Okay. Sling. All right. So these are crazy bits of kit. All right. So pound for pound, they're just as strong as steel, although you wouldn't think it, obviously, because it flexes and looking at it. So it's a nylon and cotton composite. And the same with old kit. Okay. Now, on the back of this, it'll have a rating, and it'll say a number and then KN after it. So this one is 28 KN. So KN stands for kilonewtons. And all these bits of equipment that I've just shown you have a kilonewton rating. So 1 kilonewton equals 100 kilograms of force. So technically, this can hold 2.8 tons. All right. So 2,800 kilograms. So it's a lot of weight. So they are tested to that. So this one's a DMM sling. It's just a factory made, and that's in North Wales. And they actually put them on it, and they test them, and they pull it out to that, and then they'll manufacture that batch number once it's tested and proved that it will hold the weight. The strongest part of this is this part here is actually the stitching. Like most people think it's the weakest part, but that's the strongest part. But that is when you're actually rigging, and we'll do that in a sec. You want kind of at the back, you don't want it interfering with where you've got any knots or anything like that, because clearly if you try to tie a knot around it, it won't work. Alright, so that's your slings. And then last bit really is just talk about your carabiners. So this one is slightly different. On me. These two are slightly different, look. So this one's obviously a lot smaller. So this is a D-shaped carabiner. So what you'd use this really is for rigging, but not specifically anything where you want like freedom of movement on the with the rope or like any equipment. So you wouldn't really want to put a belay plate on this, because you want the belay plate to be able to move around. So you want basically a bigger surface area here. Now, and then when if you're doing tying large knots, like a figure of 8 that you've just been kind of looking at, then that is a better carabiner for you to use, because it's just got more surface area again, and it's a big bulky knot. Or if you're going to put multiple knots on it, obviously then you want to use that. So I've talked about snap gates already, so they're obviously just doing that. This one has got a screw gate on it, so that when you knock it back, the important thing with a screw gate is that you actually do it up. So that's, again, we were talking about before, that's really sort of safety critical. You've got to make sure they're done up, and then when it is done, you just squeeze it. So you do like a pinch test to make sure it's shut. Okay. And then the other only carabiner we've got, I've not got one to show you, but it's very similar. It's an auto locking, and you'll actually use them on the auto belays on climbing walls. So when you obviously spring the gate back, it automatically goes up and locks. But equally, whatever happens with the carabiner, whatever you're doing with it, you should always make sure it's locked, either by freehand or if it's not auto locking, you squeeze it to make sure it's fixed. Alright? Any questions on any of that? That's a HMS, sorry, I didn't mention that for that. Yes, that's a HMS carabiner. And again, that's used for rigging. Actually, this one's a good example. So what you've got to look for on these is what points of wear. So you can see if you have a look at it, so this part here is quite dull, and you'll see in the centre here it's really shiny. So that's obviously friction from the rope. Now, all this kit and equipment, most likely the metal wear should have a 10-year kind of lifespan on it. But ultimately, it's also down to how much you're going to use it. So these UK, you could say definitely, it could sit on a shelf for 9 years and never be used, and obviously then it's good to go. But if it's had frequent use and you start getting this showing here, it's all right today because we're rigging, but I wouldn't take that out just because it's starting to show shine here. So I'd replace it, and it would this would just get destroyed, so no one could use it. And again, like I said before, when I talked about kilonewtons, remember what were they again? Do you remember what kilonewtons was? What kilonewton is?
28
Yeah, so 1 kilonewton, alright, is 100 kilos. Yeah, 100 kilos. Yeah, that's right. So they're all marked different. So these carabiner just has it along the back bar here, alright. And the same with that one, it's just along there. So if you wanted to know what it could hold, that's what it could hold. And these are like really, really strong, like crazy strong. Right. Yeah, so what we'll do, we'll go into a bit of rigging. Get right?
So much to know.
Yeah, it is a lot. But when you start getting hands-on with it, you'll understand it more. And it's just experience. That's what it is. You're not expected to know everything overnight. Remember, this is training. It's not, you're doing it kind of right now. You're not getting assessed. Okay, right. So, just need to cover this off. So you've got a couple of different types of ropes that you'll use today. In fact, I'll show you it. We might actually use the climbing rope. So this one is called a black mallow, and it's basically a static rope. So a static rope we'll use for rigging. Alright, so always use a static rope for rigging, or we'll abseil on it. And some of these rigging ropes will also be semi-static. What I mean by that is it will have flex, but it won't have that much in. If you pulled it, it'll just stay where it is. Whereas this one, in contrast, this is a climbing rope, and as you see it's a lot bigger, it tends to be a lot thinner, and normally like the different colours. But this one, alright, it's got a lot more flex, so I can pull that, and I can feel it moves slightly. So the thing with the ropes, when it's got more flex in it, we call it dynamicity, easy to say, not being drunk. Okay, and on it, so over it, so actually the colour here is actually, it's called the sheath, it's actually protective coating, or protective material. Actually the main core of the rope is inside it, so if you cut this with a knife now, what you would see is like lots of different strands that are all interwoven. So you're probably better than me because I've got my hair. But if you're going to do a plait, alright, so imagine plaiting loads and loads of that, that's what it looks like if you put it. Right? And sometimes, so if you ever used a rope and it was flat here, it was literally flat, and you could rather than try and pinch this together and you can't meet it in the middle, but if you could, then the chances are it's broken inside and the inner core is destroyed. So you wouldn't use it. You would cut it up for like bits of cut, bits of rope to use in other things. You just wouldn't use it. Okay, so back to our static or semi-static black marble. So what we're going to do now is have a look at rigging a top rope. Right? So we're going to, for exercise, pretend this is essentially we're going to pretend this is like a big load of trees. Right? So we're essentially doing this at natural angles. All right. So what we're going to do, and I've already put some in place just so it's easy for you. So there's a sling here, and with the sling, right, you'll see it's really important. I've not tied any knots in it. So the more knots that I put into the system, the weaker I make the system. So what we try to do is keep as few knots out of it as possible. Right? So that's going to be my first anchor point. So once I've established my first anchor, so imagine I've just put that around a big tree trunk, right? Then if I'm working on the top of a cliff or crag, whatever you kind of want to call it, I need to establish a safety zone. So we're working on a traffic light system. So when I'm green at the back and I'm right against the wall or the face of the mountain, then I'm safe. Okay. But as I get nearer and I go into amber, okay, then I need to make sure I'm on the safety line. And if I go into red, well, I only definitely need to be on the safety line. And if I'm going into that, I mean that I've already built my belay system and I'm ready to use it. Right? And there's only in certain circumstances when you really kind of go into red. So what we do then, okay, first and foremost is we need to rig our safety. So you just put a little bit of rope out, okay, and then you're just going to tie, so you've got an option actually, you can tie a clovitch, okay, or you can tie a figure 8 on the bike. So I'm going to tie a figure 8, it doesn't matter which one you use, so you're just going to put that, okay, into, remember what I said, pinch test, okay, so that's good. Now roughly speaking, okay, what you can do at this point, you can get your rope, you can throw it out, and make sure it meets the end of the crag, but it doesn't drop over the end, right? And then from there, okay, you can use your carabiner in the centre, which I've got already placed, like HMS, and then I can put a knot in it. Now what I would do here, I know full well that my rope there, my safety line, goes to the end, but, so if I tie a clovitch now, and I put this on here, right, I do that up, look, and I do my snap gate. Now, if I pull tight, I can only go to there. Okay, so wherever I move, I know I'm only going that far. Now, if I want to go further, the great thing with the clovitch is I can just push this up, okay, and I can move down there, right, and I'll always be tight on it, always be safe on it, right, and I know that this rope doesn't go over the end, so it's safe for me. Likewise, obviously, if I want to make it shorter, I can just feed it through, pull the clovitch up and be up here, alright? So that's our first bit. So we've got our safety established. Okay, then what I'm going to do is actually build my vector. So using this other sling, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it through, but I'm not going to tie it off. I'm actually going to step into it, okay, and I'm going to use this. These, yeah, you can do it. Okay. So now I've got my safety line over here, okay, which is tight, and I've got this around here, which if I pull this tight, I can't go anywhere. So it's like a second safety. It's impossible for me to move. So what I can do now is I can slowly walk out, or take a bit of snap. Anytime I want to stop, I can just hold that. Right, and if that's as far as I want to go, that's as far as I need to take it. So I'll get to this point here, and then I will think, right, okay, so that's where I roughly want the knot to be, but I've got to still to tie the knot. So what I want to do is just pay probably a metre out. Okay, come back, and I can tie this up. Alright, that makes sense? Then that's the clovitch, yeah. Or, I mean, it's up to you. but it's a club which is handy to use. So at this point now, because I'm back here, I can come off this. You don't need to, you can stay on it if you want, but with a top row, the difference is you're not going to be too far back. You're not going to be too near the end of the crag, so there's no need for you to be on your safety now. Okay, so all I'm going to do is that if that's where I want my rope to be, okay. Remember the bunny's ears I showed you? Right, so this is how we're going to do it. So I'll make a loop. I'll go over my hand and I'll pop this through. Like that. Okay, then you've got these two loops here, yeah? Remember that? And I put that over the whole thing and I slowly pull it so I've got one along with the other. And the one that's longer is the one that I want to attach into as the belay. And the one that's shorter is the one that you want the rope to be clamped into, the person that's basically being belayed. Alright? So that is, in a nutshell, your belay system. Alright? And the key thing is that these points here don't go any greater than 90 degrees. Okay? No less than 20. Right? And an optimum angle is about 60 degrees. But a really simple, quick trick for you to do is you put your fingers on the rope like that, and if you can naturally, obviously without forcing them as wide apart as possible, but if they naturally go in the line and they run up both ropes, then it's fine. Right? Because you physically can't split your fingers that far, can you? So if you can do that into a V, then it's a good place. Then all I would do now is I would get my carabiner, okay, I'd stick on my safety. Right, now if I needed to go a little bit further, I'd use a sling. Okay, but if I was stood in the right place, okay, I would just sit on the balcony like that, and that's me on it. Right, and then on this one, just another carabiner, and that's what the rope will come on with. Make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah? Right. Good. Do you want to give it a go? Give it a go then. Right, I'll de-rig this spear. Yeah, you use that one, yeah. I'll check this out. I'll give you some of this kit here. And then once you got to that part, we'll just do maybe a little bit more. Before you start with the rope, what's really useful to do is to back coil it. So all you'll do is just put it in a corner before you start. So you can imagine you've got up at the top of the crag. You know where you're going to want to drop a rope off. You know roughly where you're going to rig. So you're going to leave the top part out, and you're just going to take one end. So this will become the bottom, if that makes sense. And then stick it all down. And just so you know, when you're starting to move around the rope around, it comes off neat. Alright. And then, so you leave the top like just dangling off a little bit so you don't get confused. Alright. And then with your safety, take it from the bottom. Alright. And that way it won't interfere with you when you start to rig it. Right, give it a go. You've got enough. Put some using this rod. So what I'll do, just to make it easy, right, so imagine the yellow line here, the yellow line on the gym floor, that's the end of the crag, right, so that's where it drops off. So your safety needs to reach that. You right? Yeah, so you've done the right thing. Yeah, so before you tie it, so you just undo it. That's it.
That will go there.
Yeah, that's it. So it only has to be rough. Yeah, that's it, you're good. A bit of this side. Yeah, so that's it. So you don't need to tie it. Yeah, that's cool, yeah. So,
Oh, so just hook it on and then...
yeah. Yeah, so you don't need to do it up at that point. You don't need to safety, so stand it.
Oh, there.
Yeah, that's right. So you've got your system, so that's your safety on, isn't it?
Yeah. That's that.
Brilliant. Alright, so you don't have to worry about that you can just drop now. Right, that you can just drop. So this here, what you want to do is stick that to there, stand on it, stand it that way. That's it, face me. Pull that so you can see this picture for this cool. But this bit here, now, don't worry about your safety. So that is a tiny against your chest. Grab that rope, walk out whilst you're holding the rope. Right, and then if you pull on the rope tight, pull that rope down, so it locks you off, doesn't it? You can't go anywhere. So that's like a backup. So all you're going to do now is you put the picture on your safety, you know, you can walk as far as you can do. Yeah, cool.
Do I take a bit longer?
I know, so what we, I can't know what's happening here. So you just drop it in there. It's alright, it's fine. So what we've done is you've grabbed the excess bit of here. Alright, come back, no worries. So just put that through instead. So that is the rest of this rope.
So this should have been tied on me as my safety, shouldn't it? To stop me walking off, but I've tied this end on.
Yeah, you have, yeah.
I'll change it,
It's alright, anyway. So all you have to do is undo that knot.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah, that's right.
And then from here,
So we're from
take a
here.
little bit more.
So if you wanted to go, if you're going to basically go over to here, then like what I would say, so if you work roughly work a metre, if you lengthen your arms out, that's it, and then you pull it through, like that, that's kind of
Yeah.
right? And all you do is grab these two together, you've still got to still want to go back. Chase that,
So I can unhook.
yeah, unhook it because you're still on the safety, and you're in the green zone, remember?
And then this is fully. This is
No,
fully.
that's just tied on. Remember? So, 4 inch.
That way.
That's it. There we go. Brilliant.
That's that.
Got it? That's it, yeah. So don't so your safety's completely out of the way. And just make sure you've got the magnet grabbing the main part of the rope. Got it? So you don't need the end. So just grab the end. So grab it from the knot. So that's your safety. So this side, isn't it? Stick throw it over your head. That's it. Stick into it. Put that through there. Yeah, this bit. That's it. Right. You can do it up again. So it's fine if you have to worry about it. It's good practice. Just stand against it so you can't even against your belly and just walk out. Now you got it. That's it. Walk out. And then when you want to stop there. You can pull it tight. Okay, obviously you're still on your safety, so you can't go anywhere, you know that. And all you're going to do now is, so you still need to, so that's roughly where you want the knot to be. But obviously you've got to remember that you need some slack to tie the knot. That makes sense. So what you want to do is stand where you are, and and you're going to pull this through it like that. So you've roughly got about a metre to tie the knot. Okay, and that's all you do. You go back up, so hold these two together, back up, and then you tie that off. And then you tie that. Right.
Yeah, and then now can I take this?
Okay. So now. Yeah, that's right. So now, that's this part here. Try to try to the rope as you tie it. I put it underneath or at the back. So you rope everywhere, and then you tie it easier. Now you still need to sit well. For this instance, because this is a bit further out, well, you still want to stay on it because you're going to work towards it. So stay on it for a moment. And then just tie it off. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's that,
Is
right?
that's where you want it? Right. So you can step out now. So this is tied off, isn't it? This is what same as what I just said to Hannah there. So once you've got that other knot, then let it all go. So it's nice and neat, and it's not going to confuse you. And then that bit, you're on safety, so you just go and tie your knot. Go and put his ears, yeah.
One of his ears, that's it.
Yeah. Got it?
That's it.
So remember we previously said the yellow line. So relatively speaking, you would be or both be an amber now, wouldn't you? If we're working on a rule of a metre. You're still in the safety, yeah? Trying to put his ears. You're at the same point? Okay, so remember what I said about all the time you want to think about being in safety critical, isn't it? So you never want to come off your safety unless you're in the safe zone. So for us it's what? Whereabouts? Yeah. So green zone, isn't it? Against the actual crag face. We don't come off safety unless we're there. And if we are further down, so obviously at some point you're going to need to come off to get onto this so you can be there some more. So you stay on the safety you're on now. You put another carabine on the end here. Right, click back into the loop as well. That's why you don't have it. Alright. Then you can come off your original safety. So rather, you can just leave it. If you don't need the carabiner, you can just literally flip it and throw it to the side. Try kind of put it to the back of the rack. That's it. That's how you wear. That's how you wear. Brilliant. And then just walk back. Great. So you're both in a really good position. So Hannah, you're in a great position there because you're right on the yellow line. Alright. And then you're slightly off, but it's good. It's good that you've done that because it shows a couple of different things. So I'll just move this round. So what that does is it shows us that so you'll be fine. So you've got to imagine. So what you need to think about when you're doing this is line of sight. Line of sight because they're going to climb up, you're going to be there, so you have the rope at the top here, okay, which I'll show you in a second. So this is down here, and that is what your rope will come off, alright? And then you belay off your belay essentially. And then, but you're slightly too far out, okay, in a minute. So what you want to do, put the carabine on you, or if you didn't, you have to put one. Back on.
There's one down here.
What's that? No, yeah.
It's a shame they got rid of the climbing wall.
Yeah, that was actually me.
You got rid of it?
Yeah, I was
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. Just because. Just didn't work in here. It was one place. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So what you can do now is you need to extend yourself slightly. So you can use this sling. So it's really simple. What you do is, so yes, you need one there.
Yeah.
So again, thinking about being safety critical, stick another carabiner in there. You're going to come off that one, so it doesn't matter. Then all you do is on your beer loop, you do what's called a lark's foot. So you just grab a loop, literally thread it through like that. That's simple, it's easy. And then with this, it is a little bit of a rough guesstimation of what's for you. So you're going to think, right, okay, so you need to step back probably another half a metre. So all you're going to do is tie a knot in the sling. Okay. Could be any knot, but because of these sort of types of material, if you tie like an overhang knot, it goes really, really tight. So actually what you're better to do is to do a figure of 8. Remember what I said about the stitching? You try and tie a knot. So it's really difficult because that's right on the stitching. That's all right now because it's passed through it, but if you were trying to tie the main knot on that, you just wouldn't be able to do it. Okay? So all you do now, so stick that onto there. So stick that on there. So it's important when you do this that you're on the right side of the knot. Does that make sense? Because if I'd have clipped it the other side then, when you went tight on it, you will be on the wrong side of the knot. You'll be able to basically we'll do that safe now. That's it. You walk back. Keep going until it's tight. Perfect. Right, so if that's the line of the line that you stood on, if you were to lean if you lean right back, you've both got a good view, haven't you? Yeah? Great. And then all it'd be a case of doing would be to bring someone up. So what you can use this for, you don't even necessarily need to have a belay plate on. So the reason why this one is higher than that one is because a good way to do this now is using an Italian hitch. Alright? And then essentially they can just tie in it at the bottom. Machine it quickly. So we've finished it off and you can have a go at it yourselves. So with this, this is why you get a rope out, you want to go back with it. Yeah. Okay. So you don't need loads of it, and you can do the end in a second. So you tied you've already tied a clovitch. So now what we're going to do is an Italian hitch. So how this would work is you do your loops like we do in a clovitch. Yeah. And then over the clovitch you put behind, don't you? But this time you can fold it on itself. We can have a go in a minute. That clips into there. Okay, and then this section here, would get another carabiner tied on it. So you give that to the climber would probably have that, or you can stick it on for them. Alright, and then just do a figure of it and bite, and that you would throw down. So that would go down there, and you would hold that there.
Ah, okay.
Right, that makes sense. So if I was gonna, this bit would obviously be on this side here. So you keep it kind of nice and neat. And then how this works, obviously, if I was to hold that, pull that for you now, so you just, and all you do is if I was climbing up, you just do that.
Oh.
Feed it through.
Right, yeah.
So you just pull it. So as it gets slack, so if I was climbing now, as it gets slack, you just pull it.
Takes the weight as well.
Yeah. So literally, it all works on friction.
Cool.
Yeah. So and all you do, all you've got to remember is that all the time you stay tight. So you're leant back on that. So that means you've basically loaded this whole system. So if the climber was to fall or slip or anything, he's not going to go anywhere. And or literally, you can hold that. It's really impressive. You can hold that with just a finger and a thumb, and it would still have enough friction to stop it going anywhere. Right? Cool.
That's people climbing up.
Yeah. So this is a top rope system. Go that.
So we
Yep.
leave quite a bit this.
Yeah. So if you imagine, so if you're on
It's got to get down to the
so I mean, these ropes here, these are like 60 metres long. So but you imagine most of the crags that you would use for the qualifications that you're looking at are probably like 18 maybe 20 metres at the most. So you've got plenty of rope, yeah. But before you obviously, what you do before you tie the knot, before you obviously put the Italian hitch on, you throw that off, make sure it hit the bottom. The guy at the bottom would get it, so you climb down there, then you tie the knot, and then what you've got to be is what you've got to do.
So this end is the end going down to the climber?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So then this is at the end here where I'd potentially put the figure of 8.
That's right, yeah.
Shall we take that out?
You take it out, yeah.
And then if they don't have the carabiner, you just put that on.
Yeah,
Probably have that.
yeah, that's right. So what you can do now, if you want, if you can de-rig, and then I'll show you one quick thing that you can have both of a go at then. So to take it all apart, keep all your carabiners off and everything else. And it's just getting that hands-on with the ropes and the knots. But like I said, remember the key thing is, just to do it all. Is that's safety critical. You've got to make sure you use that traffic light system. You're staying in green, and if you if you go into amber, you're on that safety line. And at no point do you undo anything, obviously, without being on some other form of safety. Yep. Yeah, take a seat, yeah. Okay. It's alright, I'll do it. Yeah, you can sit back down. Okay, so that's one method of doing it, alright? I'm going to show you another one now, really quick, and you're going to think, why have I shown you the other one? Right? But it's important that you know kind of the other way around of doing it, because that leads into other different styles of building B-layers. So the reason I've shown you to do a top rope before you do anything, because if you can build a top rope, you can build an abseil stance, and you can build a bottom rope, because essentially it's all the same thing. It's just a case of really more to do with the positioning, right? But it doesn't really get any more complex than that. And the easier you can make it for yourself is by using use natural anchors. Right? The wall that you're looking at is actually allows you to place gear placement. So when we go outside, that's something obviously we'll go on to. Right. Okay, so nothing changes. What I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to put myself a safety, and again, remember what I said, do a clovitch or a figure of 8. Right on there. Okay, think about the end of the crack, so that's not going to reach, so I'm safe on that. Actually, I'm coming close to the end of it. Alright, so can't go anywhere, I'm on my safety, happy with that. Yep, cool. We're all happy with that stage. So nothing's going to change now in terms of what I've told you to do and go inside the rope, but we're just going to do it slightly different. So this time, we're going to use 3 anchor points. So this one, and this one. So this is what you would be really useful for top rope setup, like you've just done. Or if you tie this one straight away, you can also transfer it into an abseil stance. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm not going to step inside the rope this time, but you're on your safety. So what I'm going to do is pull these down, like that. Okay, and you're going to make, turn that on. You're going to make a really big W. Simple as that. Okay, so make a W. And then you're going to, so once you've got them all tight, and you're happy with where that's going to be, going to sit, you go back up here, and tie this off. Again, make sure you do screw it up, check it. Go back to your W. Right, now you're going to make a BMK, which is a big massive knot. Alright? Really complex this. Okay, and all you're going to do is do a huge figure of 8 on the bike. Like that. Hey presto. There you've got your 2 loops. Easy as that. And you've got 3 anchor points straight away. Okay? And if you wanted 3 eye loops, okay, then you can do another anchor point and use that 4th one over there. So, right? So you stay on your safety, so so you're perfectly fine there. And then all you would do is just split these. So everything, when we're rigging anything, it all wants to be nice and neat. So you don't want kind of it to cross over like that. So as the lines from the knot naturally come out, you just do that. Right? If you've got enough rope, when you go to tie that, you can potentially, if you've got enough, probably don't, I'd have to go a bit high, but you could do bunny's ears, so you'd have multiple lines. So I could do that if I went a little bit higher, maybe, if I could get away with it. Yeah, then you have loads, yeah, exactly. So now you've got an anchor point for all sorts. So you put these over, pull this through, kind of one at a time. There you go. And now you've got loads. So that if you're going to, not that you have to do right now, but that just gives you an example. If you're going to build an abseil stance, you've got one for the B layer, one for the abseil, right, and one for the climber. right? And you've also got a spare as well. So if you wanted to rig a safety line up there, or something to tie back a safety line, you could do, but you don't need to know about that just yet. But that's just I just wanted to show you that because it's an alternative way of you rigging your top rope. Alright? Right, cool. And that is it really. Okay, so moving forward from here, all you need to do now is just practice what you've been doing. You'll have a bit of time now to try and practice that. Just get used to the tying knots, etc. Putting, obviously, get yourself on safety, moving in with that kind of safety loop, and just having a go at getting kind of the measurements right when you're throwing the safety line out. So it's just practice. So you'll have sort of 20 minutes or so, 20 minutes, half an hour, in a minute. I'll still be around, obviously, I'll just kind of sit here, watch you do it, and then hopefully kind of by the end of that, you should be at a good point where you can build a good solid top rope. But that was fine, everything you did there, was great. A little bit confused initially at the start with that safety line, but that's common because you've got so much rope all of a sudden all moving around everywhere. You kind of tend to do that. But now, you're at a kind of stage there at the end where you've got it sorted. And it's just a case of just remembering, the biggest thing when you do any of this, it's about your rope setup, and it's about being neat. So if you're neat and slick, then everything will be really straightforward for you. But when you've got rope all over the place and you try to step over everything, it gets really confusing. Right? One last thing I'll show you, and you can have a quick go at it, it's just more for fun really, but actually use it when you're getting down to some climbs. Right, so this is called a South African abseil. So what you do is you put your rope around, say, a natural anchor, your tree, or whatever it may be. Both ends of your rope. Okay, then what I would do now is I'd throw these right down to the bottom. You want to match them up first, so you give a quick shout of below. So that's down the bottom of your crack now. So this is a free abseil. And what I mean by that is you don't use any equipment. You're not clipped into anything. It's just you, and it's what you would use personally. You've got to be confident to use it. All right, but it is the safest way. There's 3 other ways you can do it, but this is the best one. All right, so you haven't got this to do in a sec. All you do is simply put it around your back. Okay, so like that. Bring it around your front. Step over the ropes and behind your leg. All right, and now I can go back. And if I want to lock off, I can lock off like that. And I won't go anywhere, I literally can't move. And then, there we go. Yes. Yeah, you got with the brave. Yeah, I have used it in anger quite a few times. But have a go at it, you just jump in. Yeah, it's fine, yeah. Go. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, so round your back. Yeah, bring them underneath. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, step through. That's it. And step. Yeah, that's it. Just walk back. Yeah.
I don't think
so
I
you
can
keep
do
that. Keep that arm out. Keep that arm out. That's it. And then, so you always kind of keep the arm right extended out a little bit. Yeah, and then just push it that way. So that, yeah. So pull it in towards your body to stop. There you go. And if you try and move now, you won't go anywhere. Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, so there's a few different types as well. You can also do like a classic, where you go down like that, and the break is like that. When you go down, you look down the floor. Yeah, it's pull it down the floor. That's great, alright, brilliant, well done. Nice one. Well done, guys.